Look, everyone wants to get rich. Everyone wants to live in a beautiful house with a beautiful swimming pool and have a lot of fancy cars. However, there's a reason why only 1% of people ever get to experience this type of life. And no, it's not because of luck or talent or genes or having rich parents. Because personally, I don't have any of that. Nowadays, with the creation of the internet and with the rise of social media, anyone from anywhere in the world can start their own online business for less than the price of a meal. Now, does this mean that everyone can succeed and make millions of dollars? No. I personally believe that the worst thing is to be on your deathbed, you're looking back at your life and you realize that you could have done so much more but you didn't. Why? Because you were afraid. The number of millionaires significantly increased between 2020 and 2021. So in this video, I want to share with you 4 things that you need to avoid if you want to become rich. Because a lot of people think that it's all about working harder. You know, it's about grinding day in, day out. But success has to do with a lot more than just that. The first thing that you need to avoid if you want to get rich is denial. Now, if you look at most people's attitude in life, you'll quickly notice that the vast majority of people simply refuse to take responsibility for their actions. If something bad happens, of course it's not their fault. It has to be somebody else's fault. If they're not in great shape, it's their metabolism, it's their genetics. It's not their fault. It's not because they don't eat correctly and because they don't exercise. If they're not making much money, or at least not as much as they want, well, it's the government's fault, or taxes are too high, or it's because of rich people. Now, not everything is your fault. However, everything is your responsibility. Let that sink in for a moment. Not everything is your fault because you didn't choose your genes, your parents, or the country you were born into. However, these things are still your responsibility to deal with. You get to choose how you respond to the situation. If a tree falls on top of your house and destroys it, it's not necessarily your fault. Maybe you didn't do anything wrong, but it's still your responsibility to take care of it and to fix that problem, because most likely no one else is going to do it for you. And when it comes to refusing to take responsibility for their actions and for their lives, a lot of people are in denial about their current financial situation. They won't admit to themselves that they want to have more money, that they want to experience more luxury. Therefore, they never take action and do the things that they need to do if they want to reach higher levels of wealth. The first step to solving a problem is recognition and admission. You can't fix a problem if you're not even aware that it's there in the first place. But you also need to accept that the problem is there and you need to do something about it. A lot of people are aware that they have a problem, yet it doesn't mean that they're actively trying to fix it. To give you an example, somebody could be overweight or even obese and they know that they are putting their health at risk. But maybe they decide to sweep the problem under the rug and they refuse to change their eating habits and their sedentary lifestyle for some reason. So only when you've recognized and accepted the problem can you do something to solve it. A lot of people, especially people who grew up middle class, they want to appear richer than they actually are. Everyone wants to be loved, recognized, and respected. And one way to get these things is to become successful and to achieve big things, because people have always admired the extraordinary. The ordinary just blends in with the rest. Nothing really stands out. But you see, the issue is when people who don't have that much money, they go and they buy the latest iPhone, just so that they can impress other people and that those same people think they're richer than they actually are. Well, let me tell you something. In reality, nobody cares. And yes, you heard that right, nobody cares. Personally, I used to be afraid that people would see me negatively. But then, one day I realized that nobody cares anyway. When you're so busy thinking about what everyone else is going to be thinking about you, you forget that other people are just as focused on themselves as you are focused on yourself. Each individual is the main character in their own story. In your life, you're the main character. You see things through your own eyes, through your own point of view. But in the life of somebody else, they are the main character, not you. When you realize that people don't care about you, not because they're bad, but simply because they're too focused, too busy worrying about themselves and their own problems, it frees you. Because now you're no longer scared of what other people think about you, because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Look, no matter what you do, there is always going to be somebody who will think that you're an asshole. And one day my father told me this thing that really stuck with me. You're always going to be somebody's asshole. So quit worrying about other people's perception of you, because it simply doesn't matter. And this is such golden advice, especially for the younger people watching this video right now. Maybe you're a teenager or you're in your 20s and you think that if you have a Rolex or a supercar, you will impress everybody and everyone will love you more. Maybe you think that this will earn you the respect of other people. But to be completely honest with you, at this age when you have those things, most people are simply going to assume that that is money, not your money. So even if you work very hard to obtain those things, it doesn't necessarily have the intended effect. So if you're trying to prove something to other people, if you're driving a car not because you enjoy it, but rather just to signal status to others, like I said, it's not going to have the intended effect, believe me. Now, something else that is preventing you from building great wealth is your lack of understanding of money. So that can mean one of two things. Either the way that you think about money is holding you back, or you are using the wrong vehicle. Tell me, what is your first reaction when you see a supercar on the road? Do you feel jealous, bitter, resentful, or do you admire the car and feel inspired by it? The way that you feel about wealth, luxury, and about rich and wealthy people in general, it's going to determine whether or not you can access that same abundance yourself at some point. If you believe that every rich person is a crook and that in order to amass that wealth they have to do bad things, then you won't do the necessary things to succeed, because who wants to be a crook? Maybe you grew up in a low-income family, and with without realizing it, your parents transferred their negative beliefs about money onto you. Our beliefs shape our reality. That's what you really need to understand. If you don't believe that you can get a shot at making millions of dollars, well, you will never make millions of dollars. It's that simple. It all starts with the belief that you can. It doesn't mean that just because you think something is gonna make it true. However, if you don't have the belief that you can do it, you'll never start, because why bother? Now, maybe you don't necessarily have negative beliefs about money, but maybe you're using the wrong vehicle. So first of all, what do I mean by vehicle? The vehicle that you are using simply means the opportunity that you are using to make money. For instance, a vehicle could be having a job as a plumber. Another example of a vehicle could be an online business. In order to make a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars, you need leverage and scale. If you work as a plumber, the only way to individually increase your income would be to complete higher paying jobs. But there is only so much time that you can spend working in a given day, and besides, you cannot work all the time. So for that reason, you'll be hitting a ceiling pretty quickly because you don't have that much leverage to play with. Now when it comes to scale, you can't do multiple plumbing jobs at the same time, so you're very limited in that way. Your only real option to make significantly more money as a plumber would be to hire other plumbers to do the work for you, to essentially create your own company. Hiring is one way to leverage other people's time and other people's skills so that you can grow your business and your income. Now online businesses scale a lot faster than any other type of business, especially brick and mortar businesses. To give you an example, if you wanted to open up a restaurant, you would need to hire waiters, cooks to pay for drinks, food to pay for the location, like the rent, electricity, gas, and much more. And if your restaurant is full, then in order to scale, it's very impractical because you would need to open up new restaurants in new locations, and it's going to cost a lot of money up front. Whereas with an online business, you don't necessarily have to pay that much more to handle more customers. To give you an example, if you write an ebook and you sell it for $10, well, anybody pretty much, as long as they're interested in the topic of the book, well, they can get it. There is no shipping because it's an ebook, so they just download it. So as you can see, if 1 million people buy your book, it won't cost you 1 million more times the money to serve those new customers. But when it comes to a restaurant, well, it's pretty quickly limited when it comes to how many customers it can accept at the same time. Now, if you want to discover the best online business to start for beginners, the link is in the description below. Now, everyone wants to make more money, and everybody is talking about ways to start businesses and all, but what a lot of people don't tell you is that what matters more than how much money you make, it's actually how much money you keep. Tell me, if somebody is making $1 million a year, but they only keep $100,000, are they really richer than somebody making $100,000 a year, but who keep $80,000? Statistics actually show that the number of millionaires all over the world, it's on the rise, and I would say that it's primarily because of social media. With an online business, you can literally become a millionaire in just a few short years, whereas with a traditional career, let's say if you wanted to become a lawyer, it would take you decades of climbing up the corporate ladder, and you're not even guaranteed to cross the 6-figure a year mark. Now on social media, you're going to hear a lot of people tell you that, oh, they've made $1 million a month. You see this especially with job shipping gurus, like, oh, I've made $1 million this month. But most of the time, they're talking about gross revenue, not even net profit. So you have to be very careful with what you see on social media. I don't personally follow anybody on my social media accounts because I would much rather live in the real world instead. In many studies, excessive use of social media has been shown to be linked to depression, anxiety, and loneliness. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not like one of those guys who is going to tell you that you need to save every dollar, every penny, in hopes that maybe one day you will retire with $1 million or $2 in the bank. I personally think that life is way too short just to always be living in the future. The goal is to enjoy life right now, not in some kind of distant future. Now the fourth thing that you need to avoid at any cost if you want to become rich, it's probably something you don't expect, but it's not being patient. You see, I used to think that success was all about hard work. I thought that if I got up at 5 AM and I worked as hard as I humanly could, then surely I would reach my goals faster. As it turns out, that doesn't have to be true all of the time. The tricky thing with life is that you can be doing everything right and still lose. You could drive perfectly safely on the road, but a drunk driver could hit you full speed, so as you can see, in one instant, you lost everything. You could go to the gym every day for 3 hours in hopes to build a strong and muscular physique, but I can tell you from my own experience that at some point, doing more, it's not going to lead to you getting more results. You'll hit what we call the point of diminishing returns, where doing more will actually get you worse results. You need to find that sweet spot. You shouldn't do too much, but also you should not do too little. Otherwise, well, obviously you will not get the results that you want. So just like building a great physique takes time, building a successful business takes a lot of time as well. For some of you, it's going to take 6 months to get your first client, while for some of you, it's going to take a week. However, what I am sure of is that if you work long enough at something, hard enough at something, you will become really good at it over time, and you will be successful at it. It's just that most people never get to that point because they quit way too soon. So if you avoid these 4 things that we went over, I genuinely believe that you significantly increase your chances of becoming very wealthy. If you're interested in starting your own business, I recorded a free video in which I analyze every popular business model to figure out which one is the best to start. The link is in the description below. And with that said, I will see you on the other side.